So, welcome, Pravee, or Mem, as I'm going to call you in this debrief. And congratulations on scoring a 740. From our recent conversation, you basically have had a long journey starting from 550 up all the way up to 5 attempts to 740. And now after scoring 740, you got admits from multiple schools. I have Georgetown, Southern California, UCLA over here, as well as Kellogg, which is where you're going to be doing your MBA from, right?
Yes.
So what I want to talk about is, let's start with your GMAT journey, and let's start with the first ever time you actually thought about preparing for the GMAT and taking the test or doing an MBA. I think no one worries about the GMAT till they realize it's required to get into the school of their choice. So when did you decide that you needed an MBA, and what was the driving factor for you?
Well, the driving factor was to get a master's. That's the first thing, because given my family and given the career trajectories of most of the people who graduated from the same major as I did, went for a master's. And it was kind of like the time for my parents to push me. And it was in 2000 and I think 13, around that
2013.
time.
Mm-hmm.
So it's very early, and I wasn't really paying a lot of attention, so skip that. I knew GMAT existed but never thought about it until around 2 years into around almost 2 years into my consulting work experience. I got more exposure from people who had an MBA, and I felt that having that exposure to those kind of people with that mindset would be better for me in the future for my long-term goals. So I started thinking about masters first.
Mm-hmm.
And my family background, we do a lot of trading. We have international relationships to other companies. So supply chain masters would make sense. And a lot of people I talked to said it's better to go to the US. And so I started searching, and the first thing that pops up was GMAT.
Okay.
And so it came full circle. I cannot escape the GMAT. So I started thinking about preparations, and the first thing I stumbled upon was the app from The Economist. So I tried that, but it was an on and off experience. My GMAT actually started around, let's say, end of 2015, but I wasn't paying a lot of attention. I was going through things, and I didn't have the motivation. So I thought, why not go for one GMAT just once to know what exam is like? So it's not the GMAT prep software.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the GMAT exam itself.
So you said, I'm going to go take the official test and see how it's like. Okay.
Yes. So just to know how nervous I would feel, and I was nervous. I got in, sat there, did the test, came out of 550, and I realized I have too much work to do. So that was in.
Did you expect a 550?
I expected lower.
You expected lower?
I expected lower. Because at the time I couldn't even do basic math. So I already forgot all the calculus I learned, all the algebra I learned, and I felt what happened to the past 20
people
years.
from Thailand are very good in maths, right? Overall.
Yes. Yeah, overall, and I was just shocked. But the score was not too bad for first try, I thought, and so that was in July, I think, and I started studying from then. At first, my school list was, as I said, masters. And talking to more people, they said that it would be a waste of time for me to do a master's in supply chain, because I would step up to be the head of my family business in the far future, and probably a lot more things. So an MBA would make sense. So I asked them, so what school should I go to? And they were talking about Cambridge, Oxford. At the time, for me, I was just surprised, and I looked at their GMAT score, and I was like, oh God, that is a bit too high. So I settled for rank around 50 MBA, so it's around 650, and that was my first target. And so I went in, studied. I used the Manhattan GMAT guide, because everybody tells you that that's the best books. So I did that, and within a month-ish, I got to a 660.
Okay.
And at the
This is
time,
the official
yeah,
test.
yeah, official
Okay.
test.
Okay.
uh, Truthfully, I'm not the kind of person who likes to do tests that's not official. It's not the same vibe. It's although it's expensive, but I realize that even if I do it, it doesn't have the same kind of nervous feeling. It's not a cold room. You don't hear the people's keyboards clicking, writing their essays. It's not the same. But for my unofficial score, the GMAT prep software, it was around 620 at the
Mm-hmm.
time before the exam.
Mm-hmm.
So I did that, but when I got the score, I realized I could do better.
Okay.
I could do better, and given how I am as a person, when I realize I could go more, I won't settle
Mm-hmm.
until I get that score.
Mm-hmm.
And so my school list started to change as I talked to professors, friends,
Which
peers.
professors did you talk to? I'm curious.
I talked to a professor of mine back in my undergraduate. He had an MBA, but he had from Illinois,
Okay.
Champaign.
Yeah. Okay.
That's yeah,
Yeah. Urbana Champagne. Yes.
yeah, Illinois, Champaign.
Yes.
Yes. So I was talking to him, and he was like, "Yeah, if you could go for a better school, go." And a lot of my friends said, "You shouldn't go to UCI or or Pepperdine." That I was looking into, like, no, please no. And so okay.
By the way,
And
Pepperdine is a
yeah,
beautiful campus.
I
Right?
know I've seen it.
Yes.
It's like next to the sea, the sunsets, and I'm
Yes.
like,
Yes.
but it's a good location. Like,
It's an
you should
amazing location.
try.
That's like
I
it's like being a tourist for 2 years. Yes, but anyhow, you shouldn't go to a UCI or a Pepperdine, is what your friends told you then.
Yeah, that's their perception. It was more like top 10 or bust.
Hmm.
It's yeah. So I'm surrounded by those kind of people from my
Hmm.
friends. So I was like, yeah, give it a try. I still have time. That's
Hmm.
what I tell myself. And so I continued on, and the next exam I got a 650, I think. And the reason the score went down was more emotional than physical, because mentally or studying wise, because I my girlfriend dumped me at the
Hmm.
time, and I was like, oh,
Hmm.
that's sad. So I went in kind of not knowing what to do, and I was like, this can't be good.
Hmm.
And at the time, I realized I went on the GMAT website, and they say you can take 5 exams
Hmm.
within a year. And I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. So I kind of reorganized myself and
Hmm.
looked on the internet what's the best place to study. And I
Hmm.
stumbled upon e-GMAT
Hmm.
because I know math from I for math it's kind of like a step-by-step process. If you know math you could do it, but for verbal it's more, if you're not a native speaker you need to know the rules. It's like math, and I wanted to learn from people who had gone through that successes, and the link that came up first for me, and I read all the reviews, was e-GMAT. So I first tried a trial, and then bought the whole package and started studying for sentence correction first,
Hmm.
and then went for critical reasoning. And when I studied, I realized I missed a lot of opportunities during the exam.
Hmm.
So those little things, those pre-thinking and getting to know what the passage we're going to say, or anticipating what's going to be, and
Hmm.
that helped me frame my mindset towards GMAT from going at it like I don't know what they are talking about to, oh, now I know what type of questions would talk about this and what type of mistakes or what type of traps they would have. So that's the most valuable aspect for me.
Hmm.
And at the same time, the bold-faced questions where you guys talked about certain kinds of definitions for words, and that stood out to me because I never realized before that beliefs or generalization. What does that actually mean in terms of GMAT? So that was
Also
valuable
in
for
real world,
me.
by the way, no one.
Yes, I
Also in
know.
real world, it's not just and no one thinks about them. I never thought about them till we started making the course. Okay, even
Yeah.
though I'd taken the test before that, it's like I didn't think about it. Belief had such a precise definition, and it's different from something else, and technically it's the same bucket as opinion, but really it's different as well. And
Yeah.
so so yeah, but all right, go on.
Yeah, so that helped me, and then I took another exam, and I think I forgot what my score was. It was around 680 at the time. My verbal kind of went down, and I was I was kind of sad because at the same time I studied more, and I did a lot more things. And then I realized at the time I was just studying and not looking at my mistakes. So
Okay.
that 680 was, I got that on December 25th or 26th. I forgot what that day was. It was higher than the previous 660, but I don't have a lot of time left until,
The
the
application.
end of round two. So it was kind of a chase a bit. So I decided just to go ahead with my applications and submit it to Kellogg 1 year. And the reason I chose the 1 year at first was because, given my background and given my long term goals, it would fit Kellogg 1 year as well.
Mm-hmm.
But personally, I prefer 2 year program as it would increase my exposure with all the people I'd be surrounded with. I had more opportunities to pursue clubs, networking,
Mm-hmm.
because it's very different from
It
someone from
is.
an Asian country and in the US. So if you go there and I studied abroad in Japan for a year, and I knew what a year felt like. It was way too fast. It's a
It
blink
is.
of an eye, you're back.
Yes.
Yes.
But let's kind of get back. You applied to Kellogg with a 680, but you still got a 740. And you mentioned that you did introspection and you realized when you got a 680, you weren't revising your mistakes. How did you figure that out?
Uh, I was looking through other people's debrief. I was reading
Okay.
them. I was literally going through every single thread on gmatclub.com, just going through the top debriefs, just reading them. What did they do to jump
Mm-hmm.
from 550 to go up? Because at first it seems like a bizarre thing to happen to someone. It's 550 to 700 plus. It's not possible. It's very far removed from who I am as a person. So I started reading it, starting to understand the structure, how they systematically overcame their problems, and it was their mistakes. So knowing, it's like, because for me, for math, the reason my math score jumped to 40 for Q49 was because I knew what the exact mistakes I made.
Mm-hmm.
So when I was writing down the calculations, I stopped myself and asked, am I doing it the same way that I did wrong the last time? And if the answer is yes, I was like, take a step back
Yes.
and redo it. And everything came through, and I was a lot more calmer, knowing, it's like knowing that someone's going to stab you at the back when you turn around as fast and you can just catch their knives. So it's like that. So it's exactly like
I am not sure GMAC would appreciate that comparison,
that.
stabbing with the back, but I get what you're trying to say.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
so so so, so 680 to 740. What did you do?
Just reviewing a lot of my mistakes, giving time to myself to just take a breather, because going in an exam very stressful would not help you anyway. So feeling good about yourself
I
is
think
the best thing.
that's incredible. I think I agree with that. Um, when I was 17, I did a bunch of these competitive exams, and there was this one exam I really wanted to get to succeed on, did not, and I was really frustrated after that. And I said, okay, I'm not going to study, and all I'd do is just I would watch TV and solve questions because I'd studied so much
Yes.
upfront, and I was like, there's no point studying anymore. I've been studying nonstop for 10 months or so, and I've
Oh my god.
pretty much all my friends, all my cousins' weddings, and so my friends weren't getting married. I was 17, then they were also 17, and so if this doesn't get there, then I don't know what. So I just revised what I did. I cut down my study time to half, but whatever I did, I kind of did it slow and steadily. And there were a couple of other exams in a month or month and a half, and I aced pretty much every exam after that. And
Oh.
all that was required for all that information in my mind to settle down, to get cemented, for me to really look back at my mistakes and then really be a lot more calm in the exam as if nothing is at stake. Uh, uh, this actually has backfired for me once as well. I once sat in a in a competitive test for a company that
Oh.
and I didn't want a job at that company. And I said, make no
Oh.
mistake, I'm going to be super calm. It's just an aptitude test that I'm practicing for, and I aced it. And I went into the interview and I told them I don't know anything about your company, and they still hired me. And the downside was I couldn't sit for another company interview. This was a campus interview, so pretty much. So,
Oh.
but essentially, I know the fact that when you're calm, when you're a lot more relaxed, the performance level just increases, and I absolutely agree with that. So
Yes.
that's and revising your mistake helps a tremendous amount, and looking
Yes.
at hey, are you doing things the same way? Are you If you're doing things the same way, then expecting a different outcome is foolish.
Yes. I totally agree.
So that's incredible. So you've done some very interesting things. So you applied to all these schools, and you got into Georgetown, Southern California, and UCLA, and you got a ton of money from these. So tell me, how much scholarship did you get from Georgetown and USC?
For USC, I got 100,000, and for Georgetown, I got wait no USC I got 80,
Mm-hmm.
and 80 grand, and for Georgetown I got 60 grand
And
and
UCLA
40 grand.
40 grand, 40, 60, 80, and Kellogg
Yes, none. I got
none.
nothing.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
and you chose Kellogg over all of these.
Yes, I chose
Okay, so,
Kellogg.
so what was the rationale behind choosing Kellogg?
Well, a lot of factors go into choosing schools.
Mm.
For me, it was fit and ranking. So those are the two things.
Mhm,
Since family business, I have to go through a lot of connections, talk to a lot of people.
mhm,
Sometimes people who are not from the same background as I am, and people who are way older than I am. So they are more brand conscious for schools. So Georgetown is a great school. It's an amazing school, but in Thailand alone, not a lot of alumni, not a lot of exposure.
mhm,
So I sadly, for me, because I really like Georgetown, removed it from my list. And for USC at the time, I there was USC, UCLA, and Kellogg for me to choose, and I decided to fly over to the US
mhm,
during that mid weekend to meet up with school, the admissions, the people who I'll be surrounded with, just to know what it's going to be like. Because USC, truth
mhm,
be told, that's a lot of money
mhm,
dangling around. And unfortunately, I kind of fly in quite later and miss the USC, but I had meetings with people for MBAs from USC,
mhm,
and I was talking to them. And while I was talking, they were Thai MBA, so
mhm.
I guess it's a different kind of vibe. And they were talking about that if they could, they would go for another
Kellogg.
program.
Okay.
Yeah. So they were like, if I had the opportunity like you, I would reconsider my stance and check out how
Mhm,
Kellogg is, how UCLA is.
mhm,
And so my first school visit was at Kellogg, and they had a new building.
mhm.
It was gorgeous. It's amazing. The whole view, and you can see the lake. You can see Chicago from the lake. It's great. And
I'd be
I
visiting that building next year, by the way.
oh great. Oh, you're gonna love it. Just don't visit in the winter because you have the
No,
wind
I'd be
chill
visiting it
effect.
in summer, in the middle of summer. So that's where our next AJAC conference is, and Kellogg would
Oh,
be hosting us.
okay.
So
Awesome, awesome. Wow, we might get to meet and say hi.
absolutely, yes, we might. So
Hmm.
okay, so then you saw this building, and
I saw this building. I went through the 3 days of intense at mid weekend. I did not know how intense it was. I was drained.
Mhm.
But when I step into the building and start talking to other admits, they're very smart people.
You're talking to current
And
students, right?
yeah, not current students, admits.
The other admit. So who
The
would
other
be
admits,
potential fellow classmates? Okay.
yeah, the potential classmate, they're smart, they're very humble about their achievement. They
Mhm.
were fun to be around, absolute fun, and I could understand about how Kellogg is a fun school, sociable people, very independent, and I really like the vibe.
Mhm.
And so I hold that thought because that's the first benchmark that I have. I have no other schools for benchmark. And then the next week I went to UCLA.
Mhm.
And personally, I'm quite a city person. I live in Bangkok, I live in Thailand. I've been in the city
Mhm.
for all my life, and when I went to UCLA, the vibe was kind of flat, and I saw the downtown, and it was quite small compared to
Yes.
Bangkok.
Yes.
Even though California is huge, but the downtown for LA is very small. So that's what I thought. And then my cousin picked me up and he drove me around. He showed me USC. And the whole time he wasn't talking about academics, he wasn't talking about network. The only thing he talked about was the location. And
Mhm.
he was driving me up the ghetto. And I was like, okay, I think I understand his point about schools and the location. And because I'm an only child in my family and quite
Mhm.
kind of protected, he was quite concerned with the schools and he supported UCLA more than USC. And so I went to UCLA at mid-weekend,
Mhm.
met the people, smart, high caliber,
Mhm.
and they were absolute fun to be around. UCLA is a great school.
Mhm.
And I was talking to a bunch of other Thai current students, and
Mhm.
I was asking for the experiences because I also asked that to the Kellogg people, which I would compare soon. And I asked them what stood out as a program for an MBA UCLA,
Mhm.
and they were talking about location, the opportunities that the location provide, mostly the food, and the academic
Okay.
internships that UCLA had.
They have, yeah, they have some
And
amazing internships. Yes, I know that.
yes, I know, like you could take a class for your second year for only on say Monday, and the rest of the week you can do your internship at any startup or VC that you want. So that's an amazing opportunity. And and then I was reminded when I was talking to Kellogg people about their MBA experiences, what stood out for Kellogg,
Mhm.
for Kellogg as an MBA. And they were telling me about how transformative the experience was from one of the current students talked about how she was shy, even though Kellogg would accept sociable people. She was kind of shy compared to I guess, people who lived in America because she's lived in an Asian country all the time. And she said she became more confident about herself. She became more outspoken. She had more leadership opportunities.
Mhm.
And she felt that Kellogg pushed her out of her comfort zone.
Mhm.
And when I compared the two answers, what I wanted was the experience that the current student at Kellogg had.
Mhm.
And that was what like I told you in the beginning, what I want from an MBA was to grow, understand the network, understand how the US network works, and the school that would push me.
Mhm.
And according to anecdotal evidences from Kellogg and meeting the
Mhm.
students who I'll be talking to, I realized Kellogg would push me more. And being at UCLA would be some sort of personally the vibe is kind of like Thailand, like Bangkok. It wasn't exactly like the US. So there's a lot of diversity. And if you talk about Thai people, they would say LA is run by Thais. So essentially it's just moving locations but meeting people who are from the same nationality as you. And I was just like,
I
I
might as well
thought
stay back in Thailand.
I might as well take an MBA in Thailand. So my decision gradually went to Kellogg, and I was talking to my parents about the cost and everything, and they say if Kellogg meets your goals better than other schools, just go to Kellogg.
So I think
It's
that's
better.
something which is very smart, frankly. You did what I call as the ultimate litmus test, where you actually spoke to the potential. I like talking to the current students more than the potential
Mm-hmm.
students because it tells what the school has delivered. But essentially,
Yeah.
very similar litmus test where you've already said, hey, what's the vibe
Mm-hmm.
that you got from students of two different schools, and for your needs you preferred Kellogg over UCLA, and that's, I mean, you got all the information, you got all the data, and then you had a very clear reason for making a decision. So I think that's, I want to congratulate you on being so thorough in that process.
Yeah.
Both UCLA and Kellogg are great schools. I actually spent a day and a half in UCLA uh,
Oh.
a month and a half. It was end of May sometime. Yeah, 23rd,
Oh.
24th of May is when I was there. UCLA hosted us as a part of AJAC conference this year. They were one of the co-hosts,
Oh.
and in addition to Stanford and it was Stanford, UC Berkeley, and Wharton, San Francisco. So
Oh, wow.
so and so it was an incredible school. I got to speak with some of the professors. I got to speak with the dean over there, and it's for tech, for a bunch of West Coast related businesses. It's an amazing school, and what they're doing are some
Yes.
amazing things. At the same time, from what you're looking for the kind of leadership development, the kind of contacts, I think Kellogg is an excellent place. So good job in being thorough, and an MBA is a huge decision. So I think doing these extra steps they do make a difference, and it tells about your personality with regards to how you're willing to take that extra step to make sure that you're taking the right decision. Also, the fact that you earlier thought about top 50, got to the 660, and really said, I can push myself to that next level. I think that shows about your character, which is incredible. So I believe you have an amazing future ahead of you. So
Oh, thank you.
just keep the fire alive. That's all I would say.
Definitely after GMAT, after 5 months, I think I can do a lot more things if I put a lot of effort to it. It's doable. I think anybody who has the time, has the effort, have the resources can get a higher score.
I think I would say has a conviction more than
Yeah,
anything else.
that's
Conviction
true.
is really important. Yes, you need the right resources. You need to know how to do things right, but you also need to have that belief in yourself that you can ultimately get there. And frankly, GMAT's not rocket science. A lot of business is not rocket science,
Yeah,
unless
I
only I
agree.
say only rocket science is rocket science, frankly.
That's true.
So it's about being at it. It's about believing in yourself. It's about putting in the hard work, and as long as you continue to put in the hard work, you're gonna go ace the test. I mean, we've had people who started at 450, have gotten down to 740. You started at 550, you've gone to a 740, and done incredibly well on both quant as well as verbal. So good luck.
Yeah, thank you.
And I hopefully will meet up with you in at Kellogg sometime towards May of next year if you're not doing internships and out of Chicago already.
Yes, absolutely. That would be great.
Mm.
Oh, also, I think we're missing one point, which is how I kind of switched from Kellogg. I got into the 1 year
1 year to the
program.
2 year program, yes.
Yes. First, I'll talk about how the rationale I changed and how I went about going through that change.
Mm.
So, like I said in the beginning, I would prefer the 2 year program. When I got into the 1 year program, I was delighted and
Mm.
I said, well, the decision at the time was either 1 year, either 2 year or bust. So I decided to email that admissions committee at Kellogg that if you don't give me the 2 year, I would not go to Kellogg. That was my stern message to them. And they say, oh, actually, there's a proper step that goes towards getting from Kellogg 1 year to 2 year. You need to write an essay. And if you don't get in, you still have the chance to be in the program. So it was like, oh, there's no loss at all. So just send in an extra essay. So also at the same time, my family business, we started investing more into the hotel sector,
Mhm.
and our hotel itself would be finished by in 2 or 3 years.
So you're building a hotel
So
yourself.
yes,
Okay.
yeah, we are investing, and we have a team to do that. And from my position, I look at the strategy
Mhm.
at the same time and just the big picture. So it would, in terms of timeline, it would make more sense if they come back later than sooner.
Mhm.
So the project would be ongoing and it wouldn't make a lot of sense if I come back quite early.
Mhm.
So I wrote that in my essay and expressed that I really want to go for a 2 year program. It would add more depth to my experience. And truthfully, I don't have any hotel experiences. So getting an internship or just getting that exposure for 2 years would be better than just one.
Mhm.
So I sent that and they were like, sure, come in.
Okay, that's
Change to
good.
2 year. So that was kind of bizarre. And I'm not sure if it influenced the decision, but I sent the email before the admit weekend.
Mm-hmm.
When I was at the admit weekend, I walked up to the admissions committee again and told them my decision, just leaving out the part that I would not attend Kellogg if they don't get me. And then I went up to Kate Smith
Mm-hmm.
and talked to her about my decision. Whether how's that going to turn out, she gave me the standard explanation. And I'm not sure if that moved, but I was the only Thai within the 4 or 5 years
Mm-hmm.
that flew all the way from Thailand, from Bangkok, just to be at the admit weekend. Because if you get into Kellogg in the eyes from a Thai perspective, you shouldn't think of going anywhere else. That's kind of a no-brainer
Okay.
situation. If you're talking about branding, or it's like if you got into Harvard, why are you flying over to Harvard? Just go to the school. You don't need to decide unless you got into Stanford at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That kind of mentality. So I guess showing up and just voicing my opinion or my concern to the dean was, I guess, kind of a contribution, because
Oh,
from
I'm sure it just shows you're a go-getter, frankly. It says,
yeah.
hey, I'm gonna walk up to the dean and tell the dean, I want the 2-year MBA. Here is why. You would say or else, but that's understood.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
so that's good. That's wonderful. I think that's an attitude that you should just keep alive, and use sparingly, though, the threat piece, but
No, you shouldn't use it. Just
yes.
be nice and talk civilly, and
No, I mean it's not
yeah,
about not being nice. It's about really saying, hey, this
yeah.
is what I look for. This is what I'm looking
Mm-hmm.
for, and essentially, being nice doesn't mean not getting what you want if you
Yeah.
really want it. So,
Yeah.
and so I think in your case, you had good reasons why you want to do a 2-year MBA. You wanted a 2-year MBA, and you went and really said, you have a 2-year MBA. I want a 2-year MBA. Can you please give it to me if I'm a fit? Otherwise, you have UCLA that you
Yeah.
could go to, and which is offering you a 2-year MBA with a $40,000 scholarship.
I
So
know.
yes.
Yeah.
So but that's wonderful. It's great that things worked out for you, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure you're going to have an amazing experience, and you want to be in hospitality. The investments that your family is making, I think,
Yeah.
the community around Kellogg, the alumni, as well as the internships that you're going to really do, it's definitely going to help you tremendously.
Yes.
So good luck, and thank you very much for taking the time out for doing this debrief. I'm sure there are others who would really benefit from this. It's about making the right decision, and it's about, yes, in your case there were a lot of right decisions, but making the best out of those right decisions is the thing that you had to really do, and you
Yes.
kind of went about a method. You kind of devise your own method to really say, this is how I'm going to take the decision. You invested money and time in doing that, and yes, not everyone can do it the way
Mm-hmm.
you did it, but I'm sure there are alternate ways to talk to students virtually, like we are doing, versus just visiting there, and you can get a bit of it, if not the same vibe overall. So
Yes.
I think others who are listening to this, I encourage them to do that if they have multiple admits, and if they need to decide which school to go to, not just look at it purely from a ranking standpoint, but
Yes.
also from the experience that you're likely to get from there.
That's very true. And you can always talk to current students who are from the same nationality, go
Mm.
to school events, even though you already got in. I'm sure, like, there's also another